Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the second year of our Wanderlust series on this cold, wintry night. I think we can all agree that this is a great way to spend it. As a reminder, this series is brought to you by the membership committee. And since Jolene is recording the session, if you miss any portion of this, you can always view it later. So to kick this off, now that Andy is our rear Commodore, he's got a lot more time on his hands. So he's kicking back and ready to tell some tales. So Andy, take it away.
Apparently I have more time on my hands, really? It doesn't seem that way. But anyway, the membership committee, thank you very much for inviting me to speak this evening. This has been kind of a fun trip down memory lane, to be honest. And for everyone on the call here this evening, thank you very much for joining us this evening. So hopefully we'll have a fun experience, and then we can you can answer questions at the end of the presentation. So let me just pull up my PowerPoint here. Hopefully you can see my screen. That's Angisina 2 days ago, and it's in Bayfield, and apparently they have now had another 20 inches of snow today. And so I don't quite know whether you can actually see Angisina or not. So it's been quite a challenge for them. So my presentation this evening is essentially it's a story of our mission to participate in the Chicago Mac race. So in 2016, that was when the race occurred, and this is our story of how we got there. And I kind of broke it down as I was asked to do this. So planning, preparation, participation, pasties, for those of you who maybe misread it, and the pink pony.
I have no sound.
And so there you go. So for those people who might have misread that, that's what that said. So how did this all start? So in the fall of 2015, I had an idea that I wanted to participate in the Chicago Mac race. I don't know what it was. It just seemed a glamorous thing to try and do, and something that I really wanted to do. And so I really wanted to do it while I was healthy, while the boat was healthy, and while enough of my crew still liked me that we'd actually be able to go on that trip. And in the marine safety world, and some of you know that I've been involved in some of the safety training here. In the marine safety world, they talk about crew, craft, and mission. And so right the way throughout the planning, the preparation, and the participation, we thought of it through that lens of crew, craft, and mission. And so this is less about a how to do it. This is more of a how we did it. And so that's the story there. So in order to compete in the event, you actually have to be invited by the Chicago Yacht Club to participate. And so in order to compete, in order to get an invitation, you actually have to physically request an invitation. You have to write to the Chicago Yacht Club, to the MAC committee, and request an invite. And by doing that, you have to document some of your experience, or the experience of about a third of your crew. So in order to get the invitation, I had to figure out who it was that we were going to put on the crew, so that we could identify at least a third of the crew and get invited. And we were able to do that. We got invited. We sent in our paperwork, and we were now officially called an invited participant, which sounds awfully grand. But anyway, that's how we got to participate in the race. So I mentioned about crew, and quite frankly, there's no one that was able to take all of the time off to participate in that. It's way more than the race. So we essentially had to break it down into 4 crews. There was the outbound delivery crew, the race crew, the shore crew, and the return delivery crew. And so that's how we broke this up, and we'll talk about how those pieces interact. And really, it was a good experience. In order to compete, the boat needed some preparation. And then we really had to focus on what was our mission. Our mission was to deliver the boat to Chicago, race it, return it back to Bayfield safely. And so that's our crew, craft, and mission. So if we start looking at the planning, first up, we got a plan. And we're planning for working on the crew. So we needed an outbound delivery crew. And the race, we were having a maximum number of 8 people on the boat. So the idea was 2 watches of 4. And so we had to select who we were going to get for the race crew. We also needed shore crew both in Chicago and on the island. And honestly, that was the same people bringing gear from the shore or from Chicago up to the island. I don't actually know how many land miles it is. I know it's 280 nautical miles. And then we needed a crew for the return delivery. And while putting the crew together, Andrew Kerr, who you can see here, I'll move these out of the way. Andrew Kerr, who you can see right here on the right, he was visiting, doing one of the North U classes, and we managed to hijack him. He's done this race many, many times. And so he reminded us at that point that crew chemistry is way more important than pure sailing skills. And so that part of that crew chemistry is, will you still get along in the middle of a storm, in the middle of the night when lives depend upon it? And so we were, at that point, that's where we were starting to decide who our crew was going to be. As you can imagine, there's way too many details for one person to deal with or just 2 people to deal with. So throughout this, we implemented some project managers. You can see there that we broke it up into the functions of logistics, navigation, provisioning, and boat prep. And we'll talk about that in just a few slides here. So first up, let's talk a little bit about the boat, planning the craft. Angisina, which is my boat, it's stored in Bayfield, Wisconsin. It's a 1986 Sovereign 39. Unlike some other boats that have a whole multitude of sails, we've got a pretty limited sail inventory. A main, jib, 2 jibs, a couple of spinnakers, and storm sail. And so we don't have those same logistics that some others do. But again, that makes it a little bit of a challenge to participate in the race of this distance. The boat needed some updates, some improvements, and in order to compete in the race, the Chicago Mac has safety equipment requirements documents. And I found this extremely helpful as I worked to upgrade the boat to improve the function of the boat. It was kind of like to me, it was like a checklist, a to-do list of things that we needed to do. And it covers all of the major areas, the construction, fire control, damage control, auxiliary steering, some of the things that we hadn't even thought about that we needed to have on the race for offshore. It was a great guide for that. I think there's like 80 different items on the list, and we religiously went through and checked all of those items off and practiced those items. So it was certainly very, very helpful. We also needed charts, both paper charts and e-charts. When I pulled up the plotter, it stopped at Sault Ste. Marie, so I had to get the next chart over for Lake Michigan. And you have to carry paper charts, and then we chose to take 3 or 4 versions of electronic charts. So a pro tip here for anybody that's ever planning anything with as many details as this, the Microsoft To-Do app on your phone, you can share it with your crew, with your project managers. That was absolutely invaluable to us. So the planning piece of this, our mission, we knew we were going to get to Chicago, get back, and race and get back. I mentioned there on the left, that's the screenshot from the to-do list. So that's what we do. I'm a recovering engineer. Rows and columns exist for a reason. You have all of the tasks here, the times that it's supposed to get done, and who's going to do it. And this we used a Google sheet. It really, really helped us. It honestly helped remove some stress from me and some of the other project managers. Who was doing what to who, when did it need to get done, and was it done? And so this was really, really a good thing for us. We had each of our crew make their own transport arrangements. So, and then list what their transport arrangements were, who they were coming with, how they were getting there, how they were getting back. By making that clear right up front, we could avoid any surprises and people getting stuck where that was going to be unhelpful for honestly, the spreadsheet kind of reduced my stress, made sure that we hadn't dropped the ball there. So that was a little bit to do with planning. And now we move from planning into the preparation. And again, through that lens of crew, craft, and mission. So for the crew, it's almost 300 miles, 300 nautical miles for the race. And in order to get there, you got to sail across Lake Superior, which in of itself is no mean feat, and then get all the way down Lake Michigan. And the race is 2 nights, maybe 3 nights at sea. And so I'd asked each of the crew members to participate in one of two qualifying events, both of which were going to be offshore, both of which were going to be an overnight, so either Duluth to Bayfield or the around the islands. And that was a requirement for anyone that was going to be on the crew. Part of that is we want to see how we could all function at, in the middle of the night. And so that was a good piece for us. The Chicago MAC requires that, or recommends, I should say, that at least a third of the crew have participated in the Safety at Sea course. WYC has done that a couple of times, and certainly that's a great. I strongly encourage, if you get a chance to do it, please do it. I think we're going to try and bring it to WYZ next year. Try and get that done. Additionally, at least two of the crew have to have a first aid certificate that also includes CPR. Again, that's a good thing to know. One of the things that was a surprise is every member of the crew has to carry a knife at all times that can be opened one-handed. And so any of you at YZ are wondering why there's a whole bunch of us walking around trying to open a knife and practice opening a knife one-handed. That's the reason why. And there were some people that struggled to be able to open the knife one-handed. So that was a surprise that we had to learn there. We had a bunch of people buying different knives that they could flick open with one hand. So MOB drill, man overboard drill, we had to practice that, and each of the crew was required to sign a certificate to say that we'd practiced it. One of the other things we never done is try to steer the boat without a wheel, and then try to steer the boat without a rudder. And in the safety requirements, they said that in your safety inspection, you can ask, any of your crew can be asked to demonstrate that they know how to do that. So we practiced that a little bit. I'll talk about that momentarily. And then we were checking our safety gear rig down. Apparently somebody got a little carried away with that and was restrained. So we didn't actually do any serious damage to the boat there. So we had to practice many of these things. And so on a bright sunny day, we figured that we'd go out and practice all of our storm drills right off Bayfield. This is after around the islands. We got in at 3 in the morning or 4 in the morning. So midway through the day, it was a bright sunny day, we went out to practice just off the mainland there, and practicing our man overboard drill, practicing putting up a radar reflector, which is the radar reflector is up here, put up the storm jib, to practice steering the boat with the drogue. By the way, this is not where the drogue came up. This is how we dried it. But essentially, we had to practice steering the boat with this drogue towed behind the boat, and then be able to make the boat go left and right, or port and starboard. We had to practice that. And then we practiced using the auxiliary tiller. And that was one of the things that we had to build in order to compete. We realized that the auxiliary tiller that we had was inadequate. And so Mark and a couple of the other guys set to, and we managed to build a pretty good auxiliary tiller that we still use today. It's still on board today. So while we're out here, if you can imagine, it's flat calm. We're out doing a man overboard drill, having thrown a bunch of, thrown buoys in the water, thrown something else, littered the water. We attracted the attention of the Coast Guard. Coast Guard came around and kind of wondering why we're driving like crazy people. And they looked at us, saw my vessel safety sticker on the side. And, okay, nothing to see here, move along. And so they left us alone. I mentioned earlier in the year that we'd done the Safety at Sea drill. We'd hosted that. As I say, I highly recommend that. This was in the pool just in Wayzata. We practiced swimming in an inflated life jacket. If you've never done it, that is really tough. That is really difficult to do. I think Chris had the right idea by not having his inflatable on here, just had a regular life jacket. It is much, much harder than it looks. Also, climbing into this life raft. This is actually an aviation life raft, but climbing into one of those things in the water, in your life jacket, is way harder than it looks. And until you've done it, you don't quite realize quite how hard it is. I mentioned the boat for preparation. The boat needed some new equipment. We purchased a new spinnaker. We needed new charts. We needed a certificate, OR certificate, which is a measurement certificate, just to demonstrate the fact that I hadn't put an extra bowsprit on or an extra piece on the mast. Actually, very interesting. I learned a lot of history about the boat there. Dived back through the records, the previous owner, and I actually managed to contact the previous owner of the boat, and was able to get some good information from him. We built new steering gear, new auxiliary steering gear. I mentioned that earlier on. We had to install a manual bilge pump that could be operated but from the outside of the boat. So in the cockpit there, right by the wheel, there's a new manual bilge pump. They require you to have 3 fire extinguishers. We only had 2, so we add 1. Borrow a second anchor. Mark, thank you for the loan of that. We took additional CNG, which is compressed natural gas. That's how we cook. That's how we get, that's what the cooker runs on. So thanks, Chewy, for that. And then Tim Carlson hooked us up with an expanded sail repair kit so we could take care of any eventualities that we had. So that was really, a lot of people helped us to get that done. So this really is a slide I meant to include. The race is 3 days, 2 nights, sometimes 3 nights. And some boats use MREs, we don't. And we eat proper food on Angisina. And so we have 8 crew, 8 meals. And so everybody signed up as part of the process. Everyone signed up to bring either a breakfast or a dinner. And so we'd eat a good meal 2 times a day and then snack on lunch middle of the day. And those of you who've heard about the program, the infamous ginger cookies in the bottom left there, Lisa makes that contribution to any offshore program. So again, we try to eat well. I know some other boats don't necessarily do that, but part of one of the things that we like to do. So now we move from preparation into actual participation. And first thing we've got to do is get the boat from Bayfield to Chicago. That's 685 nautical miles. And so in order to do that, we assembled a small delivery crew. We got 4 experienced hands here. And I planned a fairly generous schedule. I didn't want to run us up against the fact that, we got to get there. Our safety inspection was Thursday morning at 8. We had to get there by then. But I also didn't want to make it, run us right up to that time. So we were fairly gave ourselves a pretty decent schedule. So we left on Thursday, July the 14th, happens to be my birthday. It also happens to be Bastille Day, and we happen to have a French crew member. And unfortunately, Valerie had sprained her ankle a couple of weeks before that, participating at Race Week, and wasn't able to make the delivery, but her gear did. And fortunately, Carolyn was able to take Valerie's place for the delivery. But we did manage to take her gear and the French flag there. So Mark had very carefully charted the route for us on paper and also on the iPad, so we knew exactly how long it was going to be. Our first stop was going to be Houghton. If ever you go through the Keweenaw Peninsula, Houghton, the Sumi Pancake Restaurant in Hancock, I strongly recommend you stop there. It sets you up really nicely for the rest of the day and the rest of the trip right across Lake Superior, which was our next stop. We're going to go through Whitefish Bay. Whitefish Bay is at the eastern end of Lake Superior. It is always lumpy. It is always cold. Nothing good ever happens there, but you got to get through it in order to get to Sault Ste. Marie. And then once you get through Sault Ste. Marie, you're off on to Lake Michigan. As a longtime AIS skipper once told me, something will always happen. And it did. So while we're on Lake Michigan, I got a phone call that Valerie, one of our crew members, her injury wasn't healing and that she was out. So you can imagine I'm in the middle of Lake Michigan on my way to this race, and I'm now a crew member down. And it was a tough break for her and for us, but she and Brent continued to join us in Chicago. Another discovery of Lake Michigan, Chris, if you're on the call, I'm sorry. So another discovery of Lake Michigan is that it is way warmer than Lake Superior. So any ice that we had in the ice box in Lake Superior would last, I don't know, 3 days. Once we get to Lake Superior, Lake Michigan, it's 12 hours. It was hot, and we really needed something to look forward to. So about 106 miles from Chicago, we set a mark. And just set a mark. We said, okay, this is a mission mark. When we get to 106 miles from Chicago, we're going to stop, swim, relax for a little bit. And so here we are at the mission mark. And so, yeah, it was 106 miles from Chicago, and I have no idea how much gas we had left. Meanwhile, 104 miles from Chicago, the shore crew is making its way to Chicago, and they were going to join us a few days later. At about 4 in the morning, where the Tuesday morning, Chris woke me up from down below, and I'm pretty good at the watch. I know it's not my watch. It is absolutely not my watch. I wasn't ready to get up. Chris yells at me, "Get up here, get up now. You've been planning this for 6 months, get up here." And so this was our first views of Chicago. Again, very bleary eyed. But that was our first view of Chicago, hot cup of coffee. It was a very cool experience to see that after all the planning that had gone on to get us there. So we arrived. It was a bright, shiny morning. We tied up at this is the entry to the Chicago Yacht Club. We tied up at the slip there, waiting for the dockmaster. We were there early enough that we got an absolutely fantastic slip. We were 3 doors away from the club building. It was wonderful. They were gracious hosts, and it was a really nice place to be. We had plenty to do in Chicago, and we were in some good company. We can see Quintessence is here. That's another Bayfield boat. Chase was somewhere off to the east a little bit. But we had some good company from in the area, and plenty to do in Chicago. We'd broken some gear along the way, including the wind wand at the top of the rig. So somebody needed to go up the rig, and so there I am at the top of the rig. And it's absolutely perfect timing for the shore crew to arrive, including my wife Lisa, who'd never seen me at the top of the rig, and so that was a little bit of a surprise for her. One of the requirements of being a newly invited competitor is that you have to pass a safety inspection. And really, they just want to check to see whether you've got all your gear. And I figured out that the inspector has really just wanted to check that we had our gear. They didn't care how smart we were about storing it. So we had it all laid out, everything that was on the checklist in the order that it was required, and we were done in 10 minutes. And she said, this is the quickest inspection I've ever done, full bill of health. And we went about our day. So that went well. Again, that was a good piece of learning for me. So the crew, we had Darren Bush, Scott Sundquist, Chris, my wife Lisa, who wasn't on the crew, Mark, Carolyn, Valerie, me, and Chris Nimmer. And so it was a great crew, and here we are in Chicago, enjoying ourselves. Mentioned some friends from Bayfield. This is Quintessence, Dave Crum, and his boat. So it was a real kind of party atmosphere, very festive. A wonderful backdrop. I've loved this picture for years. I just wish I had a better camera at the time. And so it was really cool. Day before the race, all the skippers are required to greet or to come to the race briefing. And so 2 things stood out to me at the race briefing. One, the weather guy that's the weather guy right there. He forecast 2 days of torrential rain, high winds, and training thunderstorms. That is not the sort of forecast that I was really hoping for, but that's what he said. And then the second thing that stood out to me is that the commander of a Coast Guard cutter was presented with the flag, the Chicago Yacht Club flag that we all signed every time, where we registered, picked up our skipper bags. We had to sign this flag, and the organizers presented him with this flag. And I remember saying, "We will fly this with pride, and we'll be right behind you if help is needed." And that was very comforting as we headed out, having just heard that weather forecast. So race day dawns. It's even hotter and more humid than the day before. I think it was over 90. The humidity was, I don't know, 100%. And it was time to go. And we snuggled our way out of our slip. We were leaving a little bit earlier. Of course, everybody else was going to leave, but we had to leave a little earlier. You remember that wind wand that I talked about? Well, when we put it up, it wasn't calibrated. We still had to calibrate it. So on our way to the race course, we had to spend 20 minutes driving around in circles just to calibrate the wind wand. On the way to the race course, we run into these guys. This is our friends Chase, also a Bayfield boat. They really look ready to race there. So they were there to see it. Well, they were, I think, they start ahead of us. As you leave Chicago, we're on the way to the start line. You parade past Navy Pier. They announce you, and our shore crew was waiting to send us on our way. That was kind of a cool place to be. This is just off Chicago. This is from our boat, and you can see the atmosphere here is really saturated. It is so humid, and the sky was starting to turn green. We could hear the rumbling in the distance. Honestly, much of the next 3 days of the race is something of a blur. So my timing might be off, but this is what we experienced. So the storms that we experienced were really intense. Certainly nothing that I'd never experienced before. The rain was sting as you're trying to drive. The lightning was so bright. The thunder was so loud. And the waves were pretty tough for me. I'm not that experienced of a driver. So they were pretty tough for me. Mark and Chris had no problem at all. And we quickly got into our watch system. And we had to adjust that, of course, because we were now a crew short. We were only 7. So we had watches of 3, 4 hours on during the day, 3 hours on during the night. And then we just saved all the gnarly crap for Chris. And that was our watch plan. And at some point on Saturday afternoon, the radio broke squelch with words that you never want to hear when you're on a boat. Mayday, 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 boat sinking. And a few hours later, that's what we saw. And we passed the scene of where this boat had sunk. All the crew was safe, all the crew were accounted for, but it's still a pretty sobering experience to see that. Partway through Sunday, the wind was blowing 30. We were dead downwind, and we have this spinnaker called the Beast. So 1.5 ounce, 1.5 ounce being a very heavy, narrow shoulders, weighs about 75 pounds if it's dry, way more than that when it's wet. And at that point, the wind is to a point that I'm pretty uncomfortable with it up. And I look at Chris at the helm. I yelled back to Chris and said, "Let's take this down before God does." And just as I said it, we rolled the boat. Spinnaker pole is about 12 inches off the water. At that point, okay, decision made. I spiked the end of the pole, took the kite down. We ran bareheaded for, 3 or 4 hours there, just until the wind abated just a little bit. In hindsight, we probably should have put up the storm jib at that point. The wind did abate. The winds it calmed down really pretty quickly. And so we did have an opportunity to get out there. And so it was a little smoother sailing, albeit pretty wet. So the race goes from Chicago right down here, right the way across Lake Michigan, Point Betsy, and then right here we've got the Manitou Islands. So you have to go through the Manitou Islands. You either go through them or you go around them. You have to have a really, really compelling reason to go around them. And as you start coming up towards the end of past the Manitous, you head up to Gray's Reef. And Gray's Reef is a 2 mile wide, 1 mile or 2 mile gap, and essentially 1.5 miles long. It's a reef, and you have to turn up north to get through that reef. And this lighthouse, this is one of the lighthouses on the reef. It's a little earlier from the delivery. And I remember getting so close to that thing. I was going back to what Kevin Kenny said about when you're within 3 lengths of the mark, you have to let the guy on the inside of you in. And so I did let him in, but I actually remember thinking that. And as I turned up north, I realized that this was going to be way tighter reach than I thought it was going to be. And we had completely the wrong kite up. And so, I'm an engineer or a recovering engineer and good at trigonometry. And I figured if we could just keep down enough, we could make the opposite corner of the reef without blowing up that kite. And so that was the plan. We were just going to try and make it to the other corner of the reef. I also recall thinking, if that J105 off our bow rounds up again, we're completely screwed. We're in deep trouble here. So as you can see from that, we made it through the reef. We turned down again, heading towards the bridge. Beautiful early morning sailing, and we're sailing towards the finish. Looks like we've got pretty good boat speed, 7.8 knots on the phonometer, and so that was we were heading towards the finish line there. Early morning, it's a wonderful time to sail. Love sunrise sailing. This is Carolyn doing a great job trimming the kite. You can see we've got other boats around us, pretty close. And this is where we came. This is the Mackinac Bridge. This is we all got to go under the bridge here. It's a pretty cool moment as you do that as we approach the bridge. And as we came under the bridge, Chris graciously gave up the helm, and so I could drive the boat under the bridge, and we drove it towards the rest of the finish of to the start line there. So it's tempting to relax once you get under the bridge, because you think, oh, the race is done. We're here at the race. You've still got at least another 2 hours of sailing to go until you get to the finish line. So we enjoyed coming under the bridge and then back to concentrating on the race. I know the picture's blurry. I have no idea where it came from. I don't know how we got that picture, but anyway, that is somebody from the shoreline as we're crossing the finish line. Again, I don't know how who took that. And here we are, we finished. We're right up here. This is the yellow brick tracker that everyone was following. So we arrived really early on the Monday. We had a great run because it was so windy. So we were there early, and we were about 18 hours ahead of schedule. And we're also 12 hours before our shore crew was due to arrive. And we had no extra gear. What we had as our race gears, all the crew gear all the other shore gear was 12 hours away. And so I took care of some arrival formalities, went in, checked in our race tracker. So while I was doing that, the crew was settling the boat. You can see it's kind of a real party atmosphere here. This is, I don't know, maybe 9 o'clock in the morning. And so it was really nice. So I get back to the boat and crew's go, boss, we got good news, bad news. Okay, how about bad news? Yeah, the maple syrup for the French toast is still on its way. Okay, well, I can kind of deal with that sort of bad news. Okay, good news. It said, we have rum. And so I can live with that kind of good news. So we had French toast doused in rum as opposed to maple syrup. It was really pretty good. And then the pink pony. And I should say, actually, what happens at the pink pony probably should not end up on a PowerPoint presentation. It should be a rule. But it's a real party atmosphere. Everybody from the race essentially descends on this place, and it is just absolutely fantastic. It's a great way to celebrate the end of an adventure. Mackinac has kind of a very cool festival vibe to it. It's really, it's a nice place to be, and so it was a good place, and we were pretty well represented. YC Yacht Club was. There was Chase, Quintessence, Angisina, a whole bunch of other people from the YZ area. So we were well represented there. And then part of that representation is these three Yahoos. And so that's Crum on the left, Dave Crum on the left, former Commodore Charlie Schroeder on the right, and me in the middle. And at that point, this is at the awards ceremony, and we came to realize while we were there that each of the three of us had just sailed our own boats for the first time in the Chicago Mac race. And it was a it was a pretty nice moment that we recognized that we'd all done that for the first time. So Wednesday morning, it's time to leave. It's time to leave the marina, head back home. And so most of the delivery crew flew from Pellston, which is the closest airport to Mackinac. You got to take a ferry to get to the airport or take a ferry to get back to the mainland. And we took a ferry. We took a ferry called Angisina. Valerie got a chance to drive us to St. Ignace, where we picked up the delivery crew, Mike and Rich. And so Scott, Mike, and Rich and myself brought the boat back to Bayfield. And we traveled largely with Chase and Q. So you can imagine as we stopped along the way, there was some great shoreside camaraderie. And but the trip through Whitefish Bay was still cold, wet, lumpy, and nothing good actually happened there. So it's the same as everything. So on the final night, we had planned to stay in Houghton and then make a daytime arrival into Bayfield. And we decided that, you know, Bayfield seemed so close. I'd been gone for so long. I just wanted to get back to Bayfield. So we grabbed a beer, the last 4 remaining pasties from the wonderful little bakery in Houghton, and got on our way. And the added bonus that night, the space station was orbiting the Earth and was clearly visible across Lake Superior every 90 minutes. Mike had this app. It's coming. We could see it coming, and you could see the space shuttle. It was very bright and very quick, and it was pretty impressive there. So after 17 days, dock to dock, again, the distance is, you know, nearly 1,200, 1,300 miles. We were arriving back in Bayfield, and our shore crew was there with a cold beer, warm embrace, and our vehicles to get us on our way. This is us just arriving at the dock, coming into the marina. And at that point, you know, our adventure was over. We'd had a good time, and we'd completed the mission to deliver the boat to Chicago, compete in the race, and return back to Bayfield. So as I was putting this together, I was trying to put, you know, some reflections of the race and what we thought was important. And, you know, if you were planning to do something like that, you know, what are some things that I would suggest that you do? So crew chemistry is really critical. It's important, again, not just on the shore, but, you know, at 2 in the morning when stuff's going bad, are you all going to get along? And will we all get along when we finish the race? Second is, as part of that crew chemistry, is an old sailor who I had the pleasure of working with for a number of years, always used to tell me before I was going offshore, never underestimate the importance of civility. And I've always remembered that. And I would encourage crew bosses and anybody that's involved in going offshore to remember that. Other reflections: Lake Superior is still cold. Whitefish Bay still sucks. I should take nicer clothes to Chicago. I hadn't realized it was quite such a fancy place. I had my race gear, and that was about it. French toast with rum is really good. You should try it. Take time to savor the moments, whether it be a cup of coffee arriving into Chicago, or just something that will happen, something that you will see. Look outside the boat, savor those moments. Sunsets on a sailboat are absolutely spectacular. And, you know, when asked, you know, why are you doing it? Why are we doing it? Because you can. And that's a reason for doing it. That's the reason for doing it, you know, because you can. And the other reflection is, I really want to go again. And I will do it one of these, either probably not this year, but within the next few years, I certainly want to go do it again. So that's what I have. That's our story. That's how we got there. That's how we competed. That's how we came back. We did okay. We were in the middle of our division, and I think the crew had a good experience, and we're all still friends today. So I would be happy to take any questions or go anywhere anyone would like to go.
If anyone has questions, please feel free to turn on your mics and or cameras and ask them live. Otherwise, you can type them in the chat and we will read them off. So the first one, Andy, looks like explain the blueberry rule.
We don't have time. So the short version is nothing good ever happens on Angisina when people have consumed blueberries. So they are now forbidden fruit. You shouldn't have them. You shouldn't have consumed them within 24 hours of being on the boat. I'll leave it at that. Come see me at the yacht club. I'll give you the better version.
I was going to say, not that sailors are superstitious or anything.
Okay, so the ridiculous thing is just this week I had blueberries and I happened to be on water, which is frozen water. And I managed to slide off the road. So it's still, the blueberry rule still exists.
All right. So next question is, how much did you motor to and from the race?
We motored a long way. We on the way there, the wind was right on the nose going to Sault Ste. Marie. So we motored there. It was very calm coming down Lake Michigan. So we motored most of the way there in order to just to make time. We said if we couldn't sail exactly the direction we wanted to go at 6.5 knots, we'd motor. And that's exactly what we did.
Right. And what are the top couple of things you would want to improve next time competitively?
We would probably have not sailed bareheaded quite as long as we did. We might have done wing on wing. I was very uncomfortable with the kite up at that point. So if I'd had a number 3, we would have put that up in a heartbeat. I didn't want to roll. I have a roller furler. I didn't want to roll it up because I was a little fearful of the amount of damage that we would do to that sail. So I would have a number 3 that we could have flung. So we wouldn't have sailed as bareheaded as we did.
Right. And what were the best meals during the race? A very important question.
Well, did I mention the French toast with? Oh no, that was during the race. Sorry. Well, since most of the people who cook the meals are on this call, I'm not going to get drawn. I'm sure it was some that was that we had like there was some enchiladas that I remember were pretty good, and the breakfast bake is I mean you can eat breakfast bake at any time of the day.
Gotcha. Maybe some of your crew want to unmute and tell us what their favorite meals were.
No, they've all gone shy. Oh, the enchiladas were pretty good. I do remember that.
Great. Next question: how long did you plan ahead of your July departure?
I think we were doing detailed planning in February, and we wanted to get all of know what we were doing when, all done before the boat prep season started. So we couldn't get on the boat until May. So we wanted to know all of that timing done before May, because we knew we were going to get busy at that point. So yeah, we had it done. And I remember, you know, Chris has done this many times with Chewy, and he's kind of like, man, you guys are trying to make this way more complicated than it really needs to be. Yet by simply having all those tasks lined up, that helped a first timer. If you haven't got the experience of doing it, a first timer, make sure that you don't drop a ball.
Mm-hmm. So you're going again this year?
No, not this year. It's I've left it too late to start planning, but I just watched the beginning of the the Caribbean 600 yesterday, and it's like, okay, I'm ready to go offshore again and go do another race. So we might do it next year.
Great. Next question: if you lost all your technology, what one thing would you hope would work?
I lost all my technology. Well, I really hope the VHF would work, because then we can get, we can at least be in contact with other people.
Mm-hmm. All right. And do you know what happened to the boat that sunk?
I should do. If I'd have read, Mark sent me an email the other day with apparently it was a write-up from the boat that sank, and sorry, Mark, I know you're on the call, but I didn't get a chance to read it yet. So we don't know exactly what happened to them. It was some kind of a mechanical failure, and you get a mechanical failure that then cascades into something else, that cascades into something else, that cascades into something else, and that's when they sink at that point. So. Apparently, Mark just put the link to the incident in the chat box.
There you go. There you go. Oh, and Valerie said if technology fails, you need to have your course on paper as backup.
That's absolutely true. Yes, and that we did. And then you saw earlier on, you saw the paper charts that we had.
Mm-hmm. Well, Paul, I see you're unmuted. Did you want to say something?
How many days did you stay in Mackinac?
Yeah, we arrived on Monday. The awards were Tuesday, and then we cleared out on Wednesday. And so we were there very early Monday morning, so 9 o'clock Monday morning. It's more typical so Angisina rates the same as Veneto 36.7. If you look at their results, they're typically in at about midnight on Monday. So we would have expected the midnight Monday, early hours of Tuesday morning. So the awards are Tuesday afternoon, and then most people leave on that Wednesday, and that's what we did.
Did you have enough clothes?
What's that?
Did you have enough warm clothes?
Well, at Lake Superior, you can't have enough warm clothes. It's not possible. But I did okay. And in Chicago, or on the way, for race gear, we had very small gear bags. So, just one shirt, that was enough.
How much time in total did you take off from work to do this expedition?
Oh my God. I think I was gone from the office 17 days. So I left on the Thursday. Yeah, it was 17 days. And I'd set that up ahead of time. So to Hans's question earlier on, how soon did I start planning? About the time when I planned to tell my boss the fact that I was going to be gone for almost a month in the middle of the year. I told him it was a once in a lifetime opportunity.
How many boats from Wayzata were in the Chicago Mac?
On this edition, the one that I did was certainly 3 of us that I know of, Chase, Quintessence, and Angisina. But I know that Chewbacca has regularly done it. I know he didn't do it the year that we did it, but there's usually 2 or 3 Bayfield boats or WYC boats that participate in the race.
Right. Oh, and Thorne commented that per Jonathan, there's Lake Michigan cold, and then there's like Superior cold.
That's absolutely true.
All right. Any other questions? All right. So Barb, do you want to go ahead and take us to our closing then?
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Hold on. I
can.
got to get my glasses on just a minute here. Hold on. I think it's on here. Okay, great. Now I can see you guys. So that's supposed to be funny. Where's the rest of my team? Don't leave me here without, I mean, I can see my notes better. Anyway, great presentation, Andy. You know, our membership committee, we have fun, so we like to throw that in there. Great presentation. I think it's just like incredible. The planning and execution, I must say, is kind of interesting. Some of your reflections can definitely apply to any part of our lives. I mean, there's bits of wisdom in that for any adventure. So I really appreciated that. But I do have a honey-do list. I'd love you to get in an Excel document and get it on an app for me, because then, you know, that could help me out. So beyond sailing. So thanks for letting us live vicariously through you. It was a perfect way to spend a winter's eve and daydreaming about the sailing season to come. If you enjoyed tonight's presentation, the membership committee welcomes you to come back on Tuesday, March 15th, to hear more adventures. We have Craig A. Smith, David Crum, and Volker Peterson will share details of their voyage from Bayfield to Antigua, along with sailing lore and perhaps even some musical talents they might share. So additionally, if you wish to consider being a presenter down the road, don't be shy. It's not hard. And or if you wish to join the membership committee, there's some good info on your screen. Just contact us. And one last thing, if you're up for seeing one another in person, which is always the best, don't forget about our happy hour on Thursday, March 10th at our favorite Muni in Wayzata. So thank you so much, everyone. And just get ready for the next adventure. Have sweet dreams tonight.
Barb and the membership committee, thank you very much for all you do, and thanks for putting this on.
Our pleasure.
You're welcome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And we will
Thanks, guys.
send out the link via Weathermark to the YouTube video once we get it all edited and uploaded.
All right. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks, Andy.